The Assassin.
You know I break necks, call me Jack Tate. I have no regrets while your life is fading. I'm a crazy fuck equivalent to Satan. When I'm behind the mic, I feel like the greatest. You know I break necks, call me Jack Tate. I have no regrets while your life is fading. I'm a crazy fuck equivalent to Satan. When I'm behind the mic, I feel like the greatest.
What up, y'all? You're listening to Sports Talk with Tropp, and I'm your host, Katie Tropp. Well, we didn't have many surprises in the NBA draft last night as far as, the first overall pick goes. Of course, the San Antonio Spurs drafted Victor Wembanyama, the French player who's basically all we've been hearing about basically the last 2 years, really. But this year he's basically been the consensus number one overall pick. Whoever was getting the first pick in the draft this year was gonna pick him up, and the Spurs, of course, did that. We'll see if he lives up to the hype. He's definitely going to a very solid organization who's been well known to turn first overall draft picks into some of the greatest players of all time. For example, David Robinson and Tim Duncan would be two names to throw out there, but definitely a good move for the Spurs. But we'll see if Wembanyama is able to live up to the hype. But let's go ahead and run down the rest of the first round of the NBA draft. The second overall pick went to the New Orleans. They are no longer in New Orleans anymore. They are the Charlotte Hornets. They drafted Brandon Miller out of Alabama. Number 3 pick was the Portland Trail Blazers. They drafted Scoot Henderson. He plays in the G League. Number 4 pick was the Houston Rockets. They drafted Amen Thompson, who's also a G League player. 5th overall pick was the Detroit Pistons. They drafted Ausar Thompson. He's also a G League player. Number 6 pick was the Orlando Magic. They drafted Anthony Black out of Arkansas. Number 7 was the Indiana Pacers. They drafted Bilal Coulibaly, and he's out of France as well. And they actually ended up trading that pick to the Wizards. And the Wizards were the following pick at number 8. They drafted Jarace Walker out of Houston, and they, of course, traded him to the Pacers. Then at number 9, the Utah Jazz drafted Taylor Hendricks out of UCF. Number 10, Mavericks drafted Cason Wallace out of Kentucky, and then they traded him to the Thunder. Number 11, Orlando Magic, they drafted Jet Howard out of Michigan. Number 12, Oklahoma City Thunder drafted Derek Lively II out of Duke, and they traded him to the Mavericks. Number 13 pick was the Toronto Raptors. They drafted Grady Dick, great name, out of Kansas. Number 14 pick was the New Orleans Pelicans. They drafted Jordan Hawkins out of UConn. Number 15 pick, the Atlanta Hawks. They drafted Kobe Buffkin out of Michigan. Number 16 pick was the Utah Jazz. They drafted Keontae George out of Baylor. Number 17, my Los Angeles Lakers. They actually made a first-round pick this year. They drafted Jalen Hood-Schifino out of Indiana. Number 18, Miami Heat drafted Jaime Jaquez Jr. out of UCLA. Number 19, the Golden State Warriors drafted Brandon Podziemski out of Santa Clara. Number 20, the Houston Rockets drafted Cam Whitmore out of Villanova. Number 21, the Brooklyn Nets drafted Noah Clowney out of Alabama. Then number 22, the Brooklyn Nets, they drafted Derek Whitehead out of Duke. Then number 23, the Portland Trail Blazers drafted Chris Murray out of Iowa. Number 24, the Sacramento Kings drafted Olivier Maxence Prosper out of Marquette and traded him to the Mavericks. Number 25, the Memphis Grizzlies drafted Marcus Sasser out of Houston and traded him to the Pistons. Then at number 26, the Indiana Pacers drafted Ben Shepherd out of Belmont. And at number 27, the Charlotte Hornets drafted Nick Smith Jr. out of Arkansas. Number 28, the Utah Jazz drafted Bryce Sensabaugh out of Ohio State. Number 29, the Indiana Pacers drafted Julian Strawther out of Gonzaga and traded him to the Nuggets. And then rounding out the first round, the LA Clippers drafted Kobe Brown out of Missouri. Then we also had a couple of trades as well yesterday and the day before prior to the draft. one of the trades. People thought it was a blockbuster, but I didn't really, but we'll go ahead and mention it anyways. Kristaps Porzingis got traded to the Boston Celtics, and Marcus Smart got traded to the Memphis Grizzlies. In my personal opinion, Porzingis is a very overrated player. He's decent, but I don't know why they think that this improves the Celtics. I don't think it improves them at all. As a matter of fact, the fact that they lost Marcus Smart, I think, is not a good thing because he's a great defender. He's a great veteran presence, and he's just a good player to have. So I think Memphis is getting a good player, but Boston getting Porzingis, I think, is not that great. He's always injured. And, I mean, when he plays, he's a pretty decent player, but he's not like some game-changing player who's really going to turn this team into a championship-level team. But who knows? We'll see. But I don't think that was a great move just because I think Porzingis is pretty much overrated. And then the other big trade was Jordan Poole got traded to the Washington Wizards, and Chris Paul got traded to the Golden State Warriors. This trade's okay. I just think Chris Paul is just old, and it's been showing over the last couple of seasons, especially this year. So he's definitely not the Chris Paul that he used to be, but he is going to a solid team. Whereas Jordan Poole, you could kind of just tell that was not going to be working out with the Golden State Warriors. He was just pretty much all season. There had been rumblings that they were going to trade him at some point. And they did trade him to the Wizards, and I mean, now he's going to one of the worst teams in the league. So have fun with that. So that was last night's NBA draft, and now we can head into the offseason for the NBA, and we'll see what we got going on there. Then also we have the College Baseball World Series Championship is this weekend. It's going to be the Florida Gators versus the LSU Tigers, which that was not my prediction at all. Florida has just dominated all the way through this entire tournament, and LSU has been the big surprise team. And man, they played a hell of a game yesterday against Wake Forest. I mean, it was a pitching duel like no other. They were just going back and forth, and nobody could score. And then finally, Wake Forest was able to get a little bit of offense going, but LSU made this amazing defensive play where the defender, he just throws the ball towards home because a guy, Wake Forest player, is just headed home, and it is one of those really super close ones. Catcher gets him right before he touches the home plate and gets him out of there. And then in the following inning, LSU is able to just crank this home run out of the park for the win. And LSU has moved on to the championship round against Florida. It's tough to pick between these two because they've both been playing great. But LSU is just, they're kind of that team that's just been really getting those really, really close wins, whereas Florida has just been dominating. So I'm going to pick Florida just because they've been the most consistent team. But I would not be surprised to see LSU win it all just because they've really been the surprise team throughout the tournament. But they played one hell of a game against Wake Forest yesterday. So who knows? That might take a little bit of the wind out of the sails for them. And I do have Florida winning it all, but should be a good College Baseball World Series. And now since we're kind of in another like sports fan type of purgatory, now that the NBA playoffs are done, the College Baseball World Series is going to be over here. So we're pretty much only going to have MLB baseball here for the next month until football training camps start. So there's not a lot to discuss on the show. So basically what I did is I picked 5 topics from each sport that I'm basically just going to go ahead and throw out the topics and just kind of put my thoughts out there on each and every topic. So let's go ahead and start off with baseball. It's going to be the Tropp 5 baseball second half storylines that basically are of interest to me, at least. Number 1 is Shohei Ohtani. Just because this guy, I mean, before he hit the league, he was really hyped up. He was about as hyped up as LeBron James was coming into the NBA. And Ohtani so far is living up to it, especially this season. He's really coming to his own. He had to battle through injuries his first couple of seasons coming in, but this year he is healthy and he is dominating at pitching and hitting. This guy cannot be stopped, and he has been so much fun to watch. And like I've continued to say, it is so nice to see that the rest of this Los Angeles Angels team is rallying around him and playing really well. And hopefully we're going to get to see them in the postseason. But it's going to be interesting to see if Ohtani's able to stay healthy, but also maintain this dominance because, he just had 12 strikeouts. It was either yesterday or the day before, whenever he pitched earlier in the week. He had 12 strikeouts against Dodgers. Now it was a loss, but Ohtani still is dominating and he's just knocking him out of the park. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's able to stay healthy and maintain this high level of play that he's been doing. Because if he does, he's obviously the AL MVP, hands fucking down. But just know, we have not seen anything like this since Babe Ruth. But even when Babe Ruth pitched and hit at the same time, it was not this dominating. Ohtani is just something else. He's just a total freaking unicorn. And he's just been excellent to watch, and I'm hoping the rest of the season he continues this, and I'm hoping we get to see him in the postseason and see what he's got there. But that's my top MLB second half storyline. Then at number 2 on my top 5 MLB second half storylines is, can anyone overtake the Tampa Bay Rays? This team out the gate has been the most dominating team from the start. They've been the best pitching team. They've been the best hitting team. They've been the best defensive team. Hell, they even have drama right now going on with one of their top players, Wander Franco. They benched him yesterday in a game. And this guy is a top prospect who just got paid bank last year too. So to sit this guy and have issues with him is a big deal. But at the same time, it still really hasn't hampered them. I do think it's probably just kind of one of those, he's having a down moment, but I don't think it's going to be anything that ruins their season. But I mean, so far, the Rays have been the best team, hands down, the first half of the season. So we'll see what they have the second half of the season, if they're able to maintain it. They are in one of the toughest divisions in baseball, and yet they've got a huge gap right now between them and everybody in their division, but also really a huge gap between them and everybody else, really other than the Braves. But the Rays, let's see if they're able to keep this up for the rest of the season, and excuse me, and to see if they're able to ultimately end up winning a World Series, because really this team is damn good. Now, Shane McClanahan did leave a start early yesterday. I believe he left in the 4th inning with a back injury. So we'll see if that ends up being something that lingers throughout the rest of the season or puts him on the injured list for a little bit of time. Hopefully it doesn't, because Shane McClanahan so far, if you're looking at the first half of the season, he's been the AL Cy Young hands down as well. So if they miss him for any period of time, it's going to be interesting to see if that takes them out a little bit. But it's going to be interesting to see if the Rays are able to keep this momentum going, keep their division lead, and ultimately have a really nice, solid playoff run. Then the number 3 Trop 5 MLB second half storyline I'm looking at is, are the Atlanta Braves the only legit National League team? Because overall, the National League sucks, at least at this point in the season. I mean, there's been some very streaky teams, and the Braves so far have really been the only legitimate team that's got solid pitching, that's got solid hitting, that's got solid defense, a great manager. Like, this team is great from top to bottom, and they really don't have a weakness at all. Even if they get injuries at any point, they still have a lot of dudes on this roster that could just back them up. I feel like they're a team that can't be stopped, but there really isn't any team in the National League that I look at that I go, will they even be a threat if they face the Braves at any point in the postseason? Because right now I couldn't look at a National League team and go, oh yeah, that team is actually a threat to the Braves. But outside of the Braves, there is not a team I look at in the National League and go, They're a solid team. They've got good pitching. They've got good this. They've got good. No, at this point in the season, I'm not seeing anybody else in the National League other than the Atlanta Braves as a real, legitimate, solid contender team. And so it's going to be interesting to see if the rest of the season, that's what the story is with the National League, because even the Dodgers this year, they suck. And I love saying that. The Dodgers suck ass this year, and it's great. But it's weird because they really aren't missing a whole lot. They still have a very solid roster. It's just they're not putting it together this year. And every time it feels like they're going to put something together, they don't. So even the teams that have been there, and then you also have the Cardinals as well, who usually are a team that is a pretty solid team, but they're not. So is there a legitimate team in the National League that's able to compete with the Braves? I have yet to see them. Maybe somebody will emerge as the summer goes on. But at this current point in time, it's all about the Braves in the National League. Then at number 4 on my top 5 MLB second half storylines are the Arizona Diamondbacks for real. And that just kind of ties in with what I was just talking about with the National League. While I definitely believe they've played a very solid first half of the season. They've maintained the lead in the National League West. They basically are the second best team in the National League. But if they were to go up against the Atlanta Braves, let's say in the NLCS, the Braves are going to sweep them, in my opinion. Maybe Zach Gallen would get a win, but I don't know, man. I don't think the Diamondbacks have what it takes to keep up with them. But I definitely think it's going to be interesting to see how the second half of the season pans out, if anybody else in the National League West steps it up, because, like I just mentioned, even though the Dodgers suck right now, they still are capable of making a nice, solid second half run, as are the Padres. Even though the Padres suck, they're capable of it as well. And hell, my San Francisco Giants are actually playing really well right now. So are they just fugazi and on a nice little winning streak right now, or are they actual legitimate contender against the Diamondbacks? So who knows? But I'm really interested to see what happens with the Diamondbacks as the season goes on. And then the last topic on my top 5 MLB second half season storylines is who the hell wants to win the National League Central? Because so far, nobody does. I mean, we started out the season with the Pittsburgh Pirates as the hottest team in that division, and then they fell off. And then the Brewers were the hottest team in that division, and then they fell off. And now the Reds are the hottest team in that division, and are they going to be able to hold on, or are they going to fall off? And then you still have the Cubs and the Cardinals, who are actually playing in London this weekend, so that's pretty cool. But they are also lingering there as well. And the Cardinals have been by far the most disappointing team in the league this year, but they're also that team that's always capable of making that second half run. So I look at the NL Central and I think any team could take this. While the Reds are the hot team right now, hell, next month it could be the Cubs who are the hot team. And then the month after that, it could be the Cardinals. And then there you go. The Cardinals once again take the NL Central. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens here. It's just every couple of weeks, a team in the NL Central makes a little run, and then they're the first place team. And then it's so back and forth. And then all of a sudden, playoff time rolls around, and what do you know? The Cardinals once again win the NL Central. So we'll see what happens there. But it's a very interesting and a very weird division because, like I said, there's been so far 3 teams that have gone streaking, taken the lead, and but then you look at it and it's like the Cubs are completely capable of that. Well, I don't think they're that good of a team. They're still a team that I think they could go on a run. And then, of course, the Cardinals, they can. They just have not got their act together whatsoever this season. All right, so now let's move on to football. And I'm going to do the Tropp 5 NFL pre-training camp storylines that are of interest, not only going into training camp, but are going to be of interest going into the NFL season, and definitely going to be storylines that we either are currently talking about still or definitely going to be big storylines heading into the season. And number 1 is obviously Aaron Rodgers. He got traded in the offseason to the New York Jets, and he's basically the last missing link that the Jets really needed to become at least a contending type team. Now, the AFC is stacked. I mean, obviously, you've got the Kansas City Chiefs, who just won the Super Bowl over there. Then you also have the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 2 years removed from losing the Super Bowl. Then you also have the Buffalo Bills, who are in their division, who've been one of the top teams in the AFC. Then also within their division, you have the Miami Dolphins, who are surging now. And then, of course, even though the Patriots, they've been pretty shitty the last couple of years, you still can't count them completely out, because Bill Belichick, no matter what, is still one of the greatest coaches of all time. And you just can't ever overlook the Patriots as long as he's their coach. And then it's just the AFC is stacked. But the Jets have been a pretty solid team defensively. They've got some pretty decent weapons offensively. It's just their quarterback situation has just been awful for many years now. And so getting Aaron Rodgers, that's a great move for them. I don't know if I consider them to be a Super Bowl contender yet. I definitely think they're going to be a good team. I would not be shocked if they won the division, because I'll get to the Bills. Actually, they're going to be my number 2 topic after this one, in particular with one player of theirs. But I would not be surprised to see the Jets actually win this division. It's just they're gonna have a lot of competition in the AFC. But Aaron Rodgers definitely makes them a contender. Like I said, I don't know if he makes them a Super Bowl contender, but he definitely makes them a legit team. Obviously, he makes them a watchable team, because, man, the New York Jets got a shit ton of games on Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. The Black Friday game, they're on a lot of TV this year, and it's definitely because, Aaron Rodgers is a draw. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and he definitely changes the outlook of this New York Jets team. And I feel like they're going to put it together. They've got a really solid team, but it's just, I don't know if they're going to be a Super Bowl contender just yet. But they're definitely going to be an intriguing team all season long. Then at number 2 on my top 5 NFL pre-training camp stories, Stephon Diggs versus the Buffalo Bills. As I just said, I feel like the Bills, right now, they've been heading into an offseason of turmoil. And the turmoil really is with Stephon Diggs. He hasn't showed up for any of the OTAs, which isn't always a bad thing, but it kind of sounds like really since the season ended, he's been getting a little contentious with the contract talks with the Bills. So is this going to linger into training camp? Is this going to linger on into the season? Are they going to trade him? I don't know, but I think that's a big deal for the Bills, just because I think Stephon Diggs is a huge piece of their offense. I mean, they really haven't had a ground attack other than Josh Allen over the last couple of seasons. And Diggs has been basically as big a piece of their offense as Josh Allen is. Of course, Josh Allen's more because he's the quarterback, but Stephon Diggs is his go-to guy, and he's made big plays, and he's a game changer. Whereas everybody else on their team, I look at it and I go, who else do they have there besides Diggs? I'm not saying they're a terrible team, but also at the same time, they had a down year last year. They have Aaron Rodgers coming into this division. You have the Dolphins, who are still, they were a team that was surging last year, so they're a team that should more than likely improve this year. So are the Bills going to fall back? And I kind of feel like Stephon Diggs and this drama, because going into training camp, you never want drama. Usually if you have drama in the offseason, it doesn't turn out. You can't say that with every single team, of course. There have been times where teams have had drama and it's worked out for them. But it's very rare. And like I said, Stephon Diggs, huge part of this offense, huge part of this team. We'll see what happens with the Bills here, but I think it's going to be a very interesting storyline leading up to training camp for the Bills. Then the third story on my top 5 NFL offseason pre-training camp stories is Saquon Barkley versus the New York Giants. He wants a contract extension with them, and they franchise tagged him. So, and he's saying he's not going to play on the franchise tag, and he's a huge piece of their offense. Now, granted, I will say, obviously, over the years, running back has become really an undervalued position, meaning your first like 4 to 5 years in the league are usually your best years, and then you get paid and you usually head downhill. And lately, over the last couple of years, teams have not been wanting to pay running backs the big bucks. And Saquon Barkley, while he's been one of the best running backs in the league over the years, he's also been injury prone. And so I see why the Giants are hesitant to pay him. But at the same time, if you want Daniel Jones to be successful, and they have now invested a lot of money into Daniel Jones, you're going to need Saquon Barkley. So it's going to be interesting to see if they sign Saquon Barkley to a deal, if he ends up playing on the franchise tag, if he ends up holding out for all the season or half the season or a couple of games to start the season. It's going to be interesting to see if that starts to become an issue for the Giants, especially as we get closer to training camp here. Then at number 4 on my top 5 NFL pre-training camp topics is DeAndre Hopkins. I feel like he's the best available free agent out there right now. He's been one of the most consistent, solid, game-changing wide receivers in the league over the years. I think, when he played for the Texans, he was obviously the best receiver in the league. Pretty much every year he was in the league while he played with the Texans. Then the Texans traded him to Arizona, and he kind of had some injury-prone years. But when he was out on the field, he made big plays. It also didn't really look like he was clicking with Kyler Murray at all. So I just kind of feel like him getting out of Arizona is a good thing. But it also, I feel like, made people forget about who DeAndre Hopkins is. And right now it's looking like he's either going to be signing with the Titans or the Patriots. Who knows? There might be another wild card team out there that we haven't really discussed. But those are the two teams he's had visits with. Those are the two teams he's really pretty much been linked to since he hit the free agency market. But I feel like he's going to improve any team that he helps out regardless. And I think he's just that dude now who's looking to get a championship and just go to a team that's got a shot, and he's going to make them better. And I don't know if the Patriots would be that team. Like I said, Bill Belichick, you can't really count them out with Bill Belichick as their coach. But at the same time, I don't look at the Patriots and go, yeah, that's a team that's close to a championship. Whereas the Titans, they're a little bit more close just because, they do have Derrick Henry at running back, the best running back in the league. They do have Tannehill, who's a very solid quarterback. They have the wide receiver is pretty much their most depleted position right now. And so he could definitely help them out. Their defense is very solid. So they're a team that's basically kind of like right there. And they're in a very weak division. So I feel like whoever he goes to, he's definitely going to be a big improvement. But he's obviously the biggest name free agent out there, as well as Dalvin Cook. But Dalvin Cook's a running back. And I don't think he's as much as a game changer as DeAndre Hopkins is. But it's going to be interesting to see where Hopkins ends up. And I'm sure he's going to be signing here in the coming weeks. And then the last topic on my top 5 NFL pre-training camp topics is what is the NFL going to look like after Tom Brady? Because, he retired this offseason. And he has not unretired, and he doesn't sound like he's coming back anytime soon. He is supposed to becoming a part owner in the Las Vegas Raiders. And then, of course, there's been talk that maybe he's going to come out of retirement and be their quarterback because already, of course, Jimmy Garoppolo is injured and had offseason foot surgery, so who knows? He may not even be in a Raiders uniform this year. So there's all this talk that, is Brady going to come out of retirement? Well, he's pretty much squashed those rumors, at least so far. So it's going to be weird with no Tom Brady. This is the first year with no Tom Brady at all. Now, since I'm 38 years old, I've watched a lot of football in my life and moved from many great players throughout the history of time. Of course, my favorite all-time player is Troy Aikman. And when I was a kid, I never thought in a million years I'd be able to get over him leaving the league, but I did. Joe Montana, he left the league. We've moved on. Peyton Manning, he left the league. We've moved on. And now Tom Brady, he's retired, and we'll see where the league ends up. I mean, I think we're in good hands. at least at the quarterback position, of course, just because, we've got Mahomes, we've got Burrow, we've got Herbert, we've got Allen. We've got so many, really good young quarterbacks. And then, of course, you got Aaron Rodgers, who's the old guy, but he's still got it. He could easily win a Super Bowl. I don't doubt any of Aaron Rodgers' abilities at all. So we'll see what the league's going to look like now without Tom Brady. But like I said, I've personally moved on from many quarterbacks many players in my entire lifetime of watching football and enjoying many of these players. But it's going to be so weird for the first time in 22 years that we will not have Tom Brady playing for a football team this year. So it's going to be interesting, and definitely going to be weird to see a Sunday without Tom Brady. But it's going to be interesting to see if anybody's able to get on the same type of trajectory as him. I would say Patrick Mahomes obviously would be the closest player right now in the league who could potentially, shoot for those type of goals. But even right now at this point in Mahomes' career, the fact that he has 2 Super Bowls is excellent. And who knows? He may not ever get back to the Super Bowl ever again, because that's just how football goes. But it's going to be interesting to see if anybody even can sniff what Tom Brady did throughout his entire career. But like I said, it's going to be very interesting to finally have a season for the first time in 20 plus years without Tom Brady. He won't even be in the booth talking. We're not even going to be hearing Tom Brady speak probably on football. I mean, he might be on random shows here and there, but it's going to be definitely weird to not even hear about him. Is this his last year, or does he still have it, or is he going to win the Super Bowl? We don't have to hear any of that this year. It's going to be a Brady-less season. All right, and now let's move on to NBA and the Trop 5 NBA offseason topics. Number one to me is James Harden. He's pretty much the number one free agent out there. I feel like he's obviously past his prime, but he's definitely going to make an impact on whatever team he signs with. It's looking like the Houston Rockets, shockingly, are the front-running team for him. I'm not really sure why, but I guess that's where he's probably going to end up going. But we'll see. He's obviously, like I said, the top guy out there. But, if he goes to Houston, I don't think he's going to make the type of championship impact. Now, if he were to go to a team who, is just like a player or two away, he could make impacts there. But on a team like the Rockets, he's just probably going to score a bunch of points and get paid. I mean, good for him if that's all he wants to do, but I don't really see James Harden winning a championship if he ends up going to the Houston Rockets. Then at number 2 on my Trop 5 NBA offseason topics is Damian Lillard, because the Trailblazers actually drafted last night the top guard in the draft last night. And is that Lillard's replacement? And now they did, this past week, the Lillard trade rumors have been out of control. And it looked like he was 100% for sure getting traded somewhere prior to the draft. Then yesterday, all of a sudden, the Trailblazers were like, no, we have zero interest in trading Dame. But then they draft this guard, and it's like, do you really have zero interest in trading Dame? It's been discussed over the last couple of seasons because, Dame Lillard is one of the best point guards in the league. He, hands down, will make a difference anywhere he goes. It's just, unfortunately, he plays in Portland, which is up in no man's land. They never win shit, so you don't really hear about him. But he definitely, let's say he goes, because Miami is pretty much the top place they're talking about him going to. He goes to Miami. Yeah, he's going to make a huge fucking impact. But up in Portland, he's making an impact, but not a playoff type impact. And Dame is the type of dude who I feel like we should at least see what he's got in the postseason. And so far, we really haven't seen much of Dame Lillard in the postseason. That's because the Trailblazers have sucked for the majority of the time he's been in Portland. And so it's going to be interesting if he does end up getting traded or if, once again, he's still stuck in Portland. So I feel like if you're a team who wants, if you're on the fence about, are we going to sign James Harden or do we want to make a trade for Damian Lillard? I think 100% you go after Lillard. Because I think he's a game changer. But we'll see because, even last year, I'd say the last 3 seasons of Dame Lillard's career, he's pretty much been talked about getting traded for a while now. And then the season begins and there he is still in Portland. So who knows, come October, he might still be up in Portland. But at the same time, it seems the trade rumors are really, really hot. And they seem to be getting hotter. And then with the fact that the Blazers drafted that guard last night, I think it kind of says it all that Dame Lillard is more than likely on the move this offseason. And it's going to be interesting to see where he may potentially end up. Then at number 3 on my top 5 NBA offseason topics, Victor Wembanyama. Is this the future of the league? Because, LeBron, whether or not he retires this offseason, next year, or in 3 years, he's obviously on the way out. Steph Curry is also getting older, and he's heading on the way out. Then you have Giannis. He's not heading on the way out, but he's getting up there. Joel Embiid hasn't really done anything just yet, but he's also getting older. So is Wembanyama going to be the future of the league? Or then you also have Jokic. Jokic just won a championship. So are the Nuggets going to be the next great dynasty? Or is Wembanyama going to be the next guy? Is he, because it is difficult to live up to the hype. I mean, that's one of the reasons why when I started the show off talking about the Porzingis trade, I called him overrated because Porzingis basically when he was drafted, that's all we heard about. Porzingis, that entire offseason. I remember I was even hoping the Lakers were going to be able to draft him, but at that year, they were a couple picks after where he was selected, so I didn't really think they had a shot. But even I was like, oh, cool, I'd love to have him on my team. He hasn't lived up to the hype in any way, shape, or form. So there's been guys that have busted like that. But then, like I said, with the Spurs themselves, they've drafted David Robinson and Tim Duncan number 1 overall, and those are 2 Hall of Fame legendary players. So what's going to happen with Wembanyama? Is he going to be the next dude, or is he going to be the next bust? Definitely going to be interesting to see how his career shapes up. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Victor Wembanyama has got. Then at number 4 on my top 5 NBA offseason topics, who will waste their time with signing Kyrie Irving? He's, for some reason, one of the top free agents on the market. I wouldn't consider signing that dude. I've said that many, 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 many times over. It's been proven time and again. You sign Kyrie Irving, this guy is a cancer to your locker room. He tears down every single fucking team he's ever gone to. I don't know why anybody would take the risk on him. I so hope to God the Lakers are not in the running for him. Stay the fuck away from Kyrie Irving. I don't care if LeBron likes him. I don't like him. He is a piece of crap. We will go nowhere if we sign him. And so it's going to be interesting to see. So far, the market's been pretty quiet for him. So I kind of feel like the majority of the league is feeling the same way I am. So we'll see what happens. Somebody's going to waste their time on him. It's probably going to be the Dallas Mavericks at this point in time. But it's one thing is for sure. If Kyrie Irving is on your team, he is going to suck the wind out of everything. He's going to ruin the season, and it's going to be all about Kyrie and his fucking conspiracy theories on life and all his dumb shit outlooks on life that nobody fucking cares about. But yeah, have fun with that, whoever signs him, as long as it's not the fucking Lakers. And rounding out my top 5 NBA offseason topics, that's my let's talk about my Lakers, because this is my show, and I decided, you know what, I want to talk about my Lakers because this team has been, other than the 2020 season, they've been very irrelevant over, Kobe's last 2 years they were bad, and then in between that, Kobe and LeBron, it was horrible. LeBron's first season as a Laker was horrible. And then the 2020 season, we did win the championship. And then after that, we've been a very irrelevant team. Even though, yes, we've made the Western Conference Finals this year, nobody's afraid of the Lakers. Nobody's picking the Lakers to be shit. And so it's going to be interesting. Are they going to trade away Anthony Davis? Now, me personally, I kind of hope we do. I like Anthony Davis. I've said it many, many, many times before on this show. He should have won the 2020 NBA MVP Finals MVP. He should have. We won that championship because of Anthony Davis. He made so many big plays throughout that entire playoff run, but of course it went to LeBron because he's LeBron. And I'm not saying LeBron played a bad series. I'm just saying it was because Anthony Davis played so great that we won that championship that year. And so I really thank him for what he's done, but overall, he's a China doll. He gets injured all the fucking time. And when you watch him on the court, it's just you're holding your breath and like, when is he going to get injured? When is he going to get injured? And I feel like if the Lakers are able to get some type of decent player for him, they got to make that move. Now, who knows what the trade market is for Anthony Davis, but if they can get some younger guy or some other equivalent player, I feel like they got to make the move. Because Anthony Davis, I feel like, is on the complete downside of his career. And I don't think he really makes an impact for the Lakers in a positive direction anymore. Even though, yes, when he's on the floor, he does make a positive impact, but he's injured all the time. And it's getting old, and it's just, he is what he is. And so it's going to be interesting to see if they end up sticking with him. I hope they re-sign Reeves. I hope they re-sign Hachimura. And I hope they build around those two plus LeBron. And let's see what we can build here. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Anthony Davis and if the Lakers can actually become a relevant team, because so far they have not been a relevant team in any way, shape, or form. When you're talking about the best teams in the league, I mean, the team that just won it this year, the Nuggets, could potentially be a really good team, at least for the next 5 years. So that's what we got to look at and compete with. But then you also still have the Golden State Warriors. I don't care what's going on there. As long as they got Steph Curry and Steve Kerr as their coach and main player, that team is always in contention. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Lakers are able to stay relevant. And then, of course, you've got the Phoenix Suns, who are also making moves in this offseason. So the Lakers got to do something this offseason. And they can't just rely on LeBron like they've been trying to do the last couple of seasons, because LeBron is on the way out. And you could tell LeBron doesn't want to shoulder the load anymore. He can shoulder the load, but he can't do it anymore. It's got to start going to somebody else. And Anthony Davis is always too injured. So that's it for my NBA topics. And now let's talk about some fight topics as well. I'm combining both UFC and boxing for this Tropp 5. And so it's just the Tropp 5 fight topics. Number one is what is the UFC going to look like post Amanda Nunes? She just retired. She's been not only the top women's fighter, hands down, but she's been one of the top UFC fighters, hands down. So it's going to be interesting. Who's going to take the reign? Because, you know, it went from basically it started with Ronda Rousey. She took over UFC, and then it went to Amanda Nunes. And Amanda Nunes hasn't given up that crown, but now that she's retired, who's going to take it? Is it going to be a Shevchenko? Who, that bitch is a motherfucker. She is insane. Even though she just lost to Grasso, and part 2 was just announced today, so we're going to see those two fighting each other again. I don't care if she lost to Grasso. Shevchenko is that bitch. She gonna fuck a motherfucker up. So is it gonna be her? Is it gonna be Grasso? Is it gonna be up and comer? Is it gonna be is the old dog Holly Holm gonna be able to get another title shot again? So there's a lot of new young girls coming up, but there's some chicks who've been around who could potentially take these the top spot away from Nunes, but she's owned the UFC for quite some time. So it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes for us to find that next GOAT, if you will, in the on the women's side of things in the UFC. But like I said, Nunes, she not only dominated the women's side, but she just overall in the UFC, just as a fighter, not talking about male or female, just as a fighter, that bitch was the best. And it's going to be interesting to see who's able to try and even fill those shoes and make an attempt at her greatness. But there are some bitches out there who I think got a good shot at taking that. My money would be on Shevchenko. That's just me. But there's a lot of bad bitches in this UFC, and there's a lot of young ones coming up that I've been watching. Hell, I didn't even mention Zhang Weili. She is a bad motherfucker too. So we'll see what happens here, where the UFC goes post Amanda Nunes. Then at number 2 on my top 5 fight topics is UFC 292. We got us 2 really solid fights in this one. In the bantamweight fight for the championship is going to be Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. O'Malley is a new young up and comer, and then of course Sterling is the defending champ. But he's had these couple of fights where he's just won not in ways you want to win. So we'll see what happens here with O'Malley, if O'Malley is legit, or if Aljamain Sterling's just going to go ahead and take care of business and hang on to that title. And then the co-main event at UFC 292 is who I was just talking about in the women's strawweight division, Zhang Weili versus Amanda Lemos. Those two, Weili, she has been one of the most dominant, like she's right up there with Nunes. That's why I'm like looking at her and Shevchenko like, are these two going to be it? Who knows? But Weili, she is a bad bitch. She's got fists of steel and fury, and she is fast as all hell. But so is Lemos. She has been an up-and-comer. I've watched her career the last couple of years. I think I've seen the majority of her fights, and she's scrappy as all hell. So this fight between those two, I see bruised and battered bitches at the end of this one for damn sure, because these are two scrappy bitches, and you don't want to be fucking with them. But that's going to be a great fight at UFC 292 between Sterling and O'Malley, and then Zhang Weili and Amanda Lemos. Then at number 3 on my top 5 fight topics is the next Canelo Alvarez fight. It was just announced yesterday that he is going to be fighting once again in September. We do not know who his opponent's going to be. The rumblings are that it's going to be against Charlo, but the guy's been having some mental health issues apparently lately. So is he even in the headspace to be fighting? Should he even be fighting? Who knows? But he also hasn't fought since 2021. So he could be a great opponent to go up against Alvarez just because he's rested. I don't know if he's been practicing or anything. But he's definitely wanted to go up against Alvarez. And whoever goes up against Alvarez, it's always a good fight in my opinion, and it's always a good fighter. But I'm always looking forward to Canelo fights, and especially since he looked really good in that last fight. And he looked like he's definitely recovered from that surgery that he had on his wrist. So it's going to be interesting to see who he ends up fighting against. But we do have us another Canelo Alvarez fight coming up here in September. Then at number 4 on my top 5 fight topics, UFC 291. It's going to be Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje for the lightweight title. And whoever is in this one, I just completely blanked on who they're going to be going up against after this. But this is a pretty big fight between two evenly matched fighters. They both have very similar styles, and so I kind of have a feeling this one is going to be one of those that just goes the distance. It's going to be a hard fought, I feel like both of these guys are going to be spent by the time it's over. I don't even feel like it's going to be a knockout or a submission. I feel like it's going to be one of those where you're like, damn, who won that one? And it's just going to be a knockdown, drag out fight, and they're going to be spent in the end. And then to round out my top 5 fight topics is Conor McGregor. he's supposed to fight at some point. They haven't even put the fight. They haven't even given a date yet for him to make his comeback. But at this point, he's been accused of rape yet again. By the way, the dude has as many rape accusations as he does. I think he's probably got more rape accusations than he does titles, as a matter of fact. But I know the UFC isn't known for really giving a shit what type of people their fighters are. And really, I don't think that's a really big deal to start thinking about. But at the same time, it's like McGregor's not really the fighter he used to be. I mean, his last fight, he completely demolished his leg. And then the fight before that, he got his ass beat. So, I mean, he really hasn't been that good of a fighter. He probably is still a draw just from his name. But I mean, is he even going to fight again? I kind of feel like these rape accusations, whether true or not, and by the way, if they're true or if they're not true, my opinion has always been the same on this subject. If you've been accused of rape multiple times, you either are a rapist or you need to figure out how to find better sluts who aren't trying to accuse you of rape, because you're just an idiot either way. So you need to get your fucking act together, especially when you got the type of money that dude has. I mean, it's just, and his fighting career is pretty much over. I mean, he probably has like another fight, possibly 2 in him, but he's not going to be that big of a draw anymore. And he's definitely not as much as a draw as he used to be. I know he's still going to get numbers, but is the fight going to be good if he fights? I feel like all he is now is just a shit talker. And that's about all we got from him. So I don't really care if he fights ever again. He's never really been one of my favorites to begin with. I do think he's, looking at his UFC career as a whole, he definitely had a solid career. He's one of the biggest draws ever in UFC history, for damn sure. But I just was never really that much of a fan of his, just because I just think he's an asshole. I think he actually is what he presents himself to be. I don't think it's fake what he is. I really do think he's an asshole. And I wouldn't be shocked if he actually was a rapist as well. Regardless, he's an idiot. And I don't really care if he fights ever again. But it's going to be interesting to see if this new rape accusation, whether it's true or not, whether it goes anywhere or just he pays the chick off or she gets nothing. I think it definitely messes things up for the UFC, and it might push the fight back even more so. And if it keeps getting pushed back even more so, we kind of start to forget about Conor McGregor. He starts to get older, and who knows if he's ever going to fight again. But I kind of feel like these new rape accusations are going to push that fight back even further, and it may or may not happen. All right, so that is today's show. Enjoy all the baseball we have this weekend, and I will talk to you fools on Monday.